that our democracy continues and that it's fair and reasonable for all of us, not for a few, but for all.
Right.
And, I think of those words that we see at the very beginning of our Constitution that say, we the people. And I want to just make sure that there's another group of people, myself included, coming along that want to make sure that we the people are always heard, and that there's that other line in the preamble that talks about securing the blessings of our liberty. And I want to make sure that we all are constantly in this mode of securing our blessings and our liberty. And it's such a wonderful thing that those blessings are pursuing happiness in the manner that we want to pursue them.
Cool.
And I think that that's one of the many reasons. I mean, there's numerous reasons, but certainly it starts there and continues on from there.
Have you always been interested in politics?
You know what? I haven't always been interested in politics. In fact, it was only probably around 2012 I started getting more interested in politics. I was asking myself, my wife and I had been running our business for almost 15 years. It was a security company that we had in Palm Desert.
Right.
We endured that horrible economy that most businesses did during 2008, 08, 09, 10. And we just asked ourselves and talked to each other and said, running a business right now is just no fun. And I started asking myself, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I said, Bill Feingold isn't going to give up his job, so I can't have that one.
Hey, like that. But if you talk to Kevin, you might get lucky.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can sit over here on this side of the glass.
Yeah. So I realized there was something else that I wanted to do in my life, and eventually boiled down to making sure that I had at least could play a small part in our political process. And I approached the city that I live in La Quinta.
Right.
And through that, I was appointed to the Mosquito and Vector Control Board, and I'm currently their vice president of their board. And I've been doing that for several years now.
They do a great job.
They do a great job. They really do. People don't understand really that district does a great job at making sure that our mosquitoes and other vectors are very limited in their activity in our valley. And of course, for me, I get to play a very small part in taking care of our public health and watching over the public funds that entity takes in to fund itself. So that's just been one of the many things I've done to try to give back in our community. But it started there.
Now, this group that's running for the nomination, and we're talking with Doug Hassett. He's the Republican. Trying to beat Sheila Carter from The Bold and Beautiful, and Dan Ball. To go against Raul Ruiz. What differentiates you from all the other candidates?
One of the things that probably the biggest thing that differentiates me from the other candidates really, truly, is not only my length of time in district, but also my involvement with the Republican Party, the few elected and appointed positions that I do carry. I'm also the appointed state GOP delegate for the Republican Party here in the 36th district. That was Senator Stone's office appointed me to that position. So it's interesting. There's not really another candidate in the race that has the elected and appointed positions that I have, and they're small, but it shows that I've been trying to take the steps to move along, and then also my length of time continually living in the community.
Right. How do you get the word out? Because that's the hard part of campaigning.
I get the word out certainly by stopping by to see Bill and Kevin.
Right. Fakakta Friday is always the perfect time.
Fakakta Friday. I mean, I can't believe I'm here on Fakakta Friday.
But seriously, have you raised money? I mean, because that's tough.
It is tough. I certainly haven't raised as much money as I'd like to, but it's a continual process. I've got an interview on Monday with a big PAC in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And if they would smile on me and favor my candidacy, then certainly they would be of some support, which I'm looking forward to that.
Because Kimberly Brown's raised a lot of money.
She's raised a lot of money. I cannot take that away from her. She's done well in that area.
Well, how do you have a website that people could go to? So
I have a website, HassettForCongress.com. I attend as many public functions as I can to get the word out. I actually, I've been up in Anza. I've been over to the little town of Sage. I've been up in Beaumont and Banning and out to Blythe.
There's a town called Sage?
There's a town called Sage. Did you know that?
No. Where is that at?
That is actually sort of south of Hammett. South of Hammett and what would be north then of how's the best way to look at that? North of Anza. So you've got Anza way up on the mountain, and if you go north from there,
I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
I've never heard of Sage.
It's a wonderful little town, and it's very rural. There's, it reminds me of my upbringing, which I spent part of my life living on a farm in Kansas City, or south of Kansas City is where I grew up. Part of my life in the city, part of my life on a farm. One of my first jobs, I always kind of laugh about this because people are a little puzzled when I say it.
Here comes the manure spreader.
Yeah.
Kevin did a... Am I right?
I used to drive a manure spreader.
I drove a manure spreader. In fact, I used to tell people that one of my first jobs was as a shovel operator in a dairy barn, and people like, shovel operator, dairy barn. And then they get it.
Oh, yes.
Now, when is the primary?
Primary will be June 5th.
That's what I thought. Okay, June 5th.
Yeah. So it's coming up soon.
Right.
And, I am really excited about my race. And I've just been out engaging so many people and so many groups. It's been a lot of fun. And, I love this democracy that we have, because the thing that I'm passionate about is that it's pretty messy at times. It's pretty contentious, but it's how we ultimately get things done. And so people that go, oh, it's too contentious, it's too messy. Well, that's the process. It was designed that way.
Yeah.
That's the part I embrace. And I think our multiple viewpoints and multiple ideas coming in from all sources is what makes our country great.
And you seem like a people person.
I am a people person.
Because I think you have to be a people person to go to Congress.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Always have been. I mean, I look at my wonderful, beautiful wife and my daughter, and they're like, oh, gosh, don't ask us to do that. Don't ask us to go to that. But I'm like, no, I'm going.
You're jumping in. And how would you be different than Raul Ruiz, do you think?
Well, certainly we're going to have some policy differences.
Right.
I think when I look at a couple of the main things that have come up recently, there was a bill that came out, I believe it was, what was it, 3114. It was HR 3114. And that was Kate's Law. You remember hearing about Kate's Law?
Yeah.
And it certainly passed in the House, passed in the Senate, but Mr. Ruiz voted against it. And I just thought that was a very reasonable bill. It just said we're going to take people that are repeat offenders, that have come here repeatedly, committed any sort of a crime, certainly violent crimes, and we're going to be, having more stringent penalties, more strict penalties for those people that have come here and committed those crimes. I thought the whole thing was very reasonable, and that's what I want to do in Congress, is be as fair and reasonable as I can. And I thought that was an unreasonable vote. I thought his position recently on HR 36, which was the bill that came along that said we're going to limit abortions to 20 weeks or less, because we've determined that the babies feel too much pain at 20 weeks and beyond. And he voted against that. And I just thought that was extremely unreasonable. I thought, what's unfair about that?
Soon we're going to find out they're reading it 1 week.
Yeah.
Bill. I'm just saying.
As smart as my daughter is, I think maybe she was. I don't know how, but she was. So we're going to differ in places.
Okay.
But I think Mr. Ruiz and I can certainly agree on other things. There's places... I think it was Reagan was famous for saying, and I'll paraphrase it, but he said,
where's Nancy?
He said something like 75% my friend is not 25% my enemy. We've just got differences, and we need to talk about those differences.
It was much better back then.
It was.
Like Tip O'Neill and Reagan used to drink at night and talk, and now you can't say a word.
And somehow we've got to get back to that.
Yeah.
It is about we the people. It's about being servants instead of that serve the public and not serve ourselves and our own self-interest.
That's right. Well, Doug Hassett, we wish you the best of luck. June 5th is the primary, and it covers what territory do you cover?
The district is big. It goes all the way from Blythe to Calamasa, down to Hemet, San Jacinto, Sage, Anza, Idlewild. It goes down as far as the very northern tip of the Salton Sea, which we have to fix. We've got to fix the Salton Sea.
Otherwise we're all going to get asthma and we're all going to choke.
That is one of the biggest crises facing
it's horrible.
Our valley, and people need to know that, and we've got to fix it. And there are people with the billions of dollars to do that, but we've got to do it. We've got to have somebody champion that effort.
Yeah, maybe we get Harold Matzner to do it. We'll call it the Matzner Sea.
Okay.
I mean, whatever they want.
If Harold will help, let's get his help.
Yeah.
I shouldn't call him Harold. I better call him Mr. Matzner.
Yeah, I really get to know. But
I think you're right. I don't think people realize how serious that is.
It's very serious.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, Doug Hassett, best of luck. June 5th is the primary, and we'll be watching.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure meeting you. You'll see the Bulldog and Kevin. It's Fakakta Friday, 94.3, 104.7 K-News.
Now I've been walking for 3 days. night.